You don't lack dreams. In fact, your mind is full of them. You imagine a better life, a version of yourself that is confident, productive, successful. You picture the outcomes clearly, the growth, the recognition, the freedom. But when it comes to doing the work, something strange happens. You hesitate. You delay. You distract yourself. And the gap between what you want and what you do slowly begins to grow. This is the quiet struggle of people who are ambitious but feel lazy. From the outside, it can look like procrastination, but from the inside, it feels like conflict. One part of you wants progress. Another part wants comfort. And comfort is winning more often than you'd like to admit. This doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean you're incapable. And it definitely doesn't mean you lack potential. It simply means your mind is caught between desire and resistance. Ambition is future-focused. It pulls you toward possibilities, growth, and change. But your brain is present-focused. It prioritizes safety, familiarity, and ease. So when ambition asks for effort, uncertainty, and discomfort, your mind responds with hesitation. Not to sabotage you, but to protect you. Because effort feels risky. Starting feels exposing. Trying feels uncertain. So instead, you wait for motivation. You tell yourself you'll start when you feel ready, when energy appears, when clarity arrives, when the timing feels right. But readiness rarely arrives before action, and the waiting quietly becomes a loop. You plan, but you don't execute. You research, but you don't start. You imagine, but you don't move. Over time, this creates something painful. Self-doubt. Not because you don't believe in your dreams, but because your actions don't match them. And that mismatch slowly turns into guilt. You end the day thinking about what you could have done. You promise yourself tomorrow will be different. You picture a more disciplined version of yourself. But when tomorrow arrives, the same resistance returns. This is not laziness in the traditional sense. It is emotional avoidance. Sometimes you avoid because you fear failure. Sometimes you avoid because you fear judgment. Sometimes you avoid because success itself feels unfamiliar. As strange as it sounds, success can feel uncomfortable when you're not used to it. Because success changes identity. It raises expectations. It makes you visible. And visibility invites evaluation. So, staying inactive, even when frustrating, can feel psychologically safer than trying. There is also perfectionism hiding beneath the surface. You don't want to do things poorly. You don't want to produce something average. You want your effort to reflect your vision. But perfectionism often delays beginnings. You wait until you have clarity, until you have confidence, until you have certainty. And while you wait, time keeps moving. The tragedy of being lazy but ambitious is not the absence of dreams. It is the presence of unused potential. You can see what you could become. You just struggle to bridge the distance. But here is an important realization. Action doesn't follow motivation. Motivation often follows action. The energy you're waiting for is frequently created by starting. And starting doesn't require intensity. It requires willingness. Willingness to do something imperfect. Willingness to feel resistance. Willingness to begin without certainty. Progress is rarely dramatic at first. It's subtle. But subtle does not mean insignificant. A small effort, a short attempt, a single step. These moments may feel insignificant, but they shift something internally. They create evidence. Evidence that you can act despite hesitation. Evidence that discomfort is survivable. evidence that progress is possible. Over time, that evidence reshapes identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who only dreams and begin seeing yourself as someone who tries. And that shift is powerful, because laziness is not a permanent trait. It is often a temporary pattern, and patterns change through repetition. Not through sudden bursts of discipline, but through consistent small actions. Another important piece of this struggle is your environment. Your surroundings either support action or encourage avoidance. Easy distractions, cluttered spaces, constant notifications. These quietly lower the threshold for procrastination. So sometimes the issue isn't your willpower, it's your environment. But even with better systems, resistance will still appear. There will be days when you don't feel motivated, days when progress feels slow, days when doubt returns. And this is where self-compassion matters. Guilt rarely creates momentum. Shame rarely inspires growth. But understanding does. Understanding that growth is uneven. Understanding that resistance is normal. Understanding that progress includes setbacks. The goal is not to eliminate laziness completely. It is to reduce its control over your decisions. Because ambition without action can feel frustrating. But ambition combined with even small action becomes momentum. You don't need to transform overnight. You don't need to suddenly become hyper-disciplined. You don't need to match someone else's pace. You only need to act a little more than you did yesterday. One small effort. One intentional choice. One moment where you move despite resistance. These moments accumulate. And eventually, the identity of lazy but ambitious begins to fade. Not because ambition disappeared, but because action joined it. The truth is, you were never lazy at your core. You were cautious. You were uncertain. You were protecting yourself from discomfort. But growth lives just beyond that protection. And every time you step slightly outside it, you expand what feels possible. So if you recognize yourself in this struggle, know this. Your dreams are not unrealistic. Your potential is not wasted. Your hesitation does not define you. You are simply in transition. A transition from imagining to attempting, from avoiding to exploring, from waiting to beginning. And beginnings don't need to be dramatic. They just need to exist. So today, instead of waiting for motivation, try one small action. Not to change your life instantly, but to change your direction slightly. Because direction, over time, becomes destiny. And the person you hope to become is not built through perfect days, but through imperfect actions repeated consistently. You don't have to stop being ambitious. You just have to stop letting hesitation be louder than your effort. Your dreams are still there. Your potential is still there. And the moment you choose to act, even a little, the distance between who you are and who you want to be begins to shrink.